Okay, call to order the March 26th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Meredith, call the roll, please.
Rich Daly,
Present.
Gigi Dubeck, Paul Fisher, Robert Hartzell,
Here.
Tundra King,
Here.
Carla Coleman,
Here.
Fred Stacer.
Here. So it looks like we got the regular team tonight. A lot of us snuck away last time. So anyway. Okay, next item on our agenda is a moment of silence. We typically do a 30-second moment of silence, so at this time, if you would, please be quiet. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 26, 2025 meeting. Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion that the meeting agenda for February 2025 be approved with said corrections.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other adjustments to it? Anybody have any? Seeing none, Meredith, call the roll on the approval of the minutes, please.
Tundra King,
Yes.
Paul Fisher,
Yes.
Rich Daly,
Yes.
Gigi Dubeck, Robert Hartzell,
Yes.
Carla Coleman,
Yes.
Fred Stacer.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. At this time, individuals who are going to testify tonight, if you would, please stand and be sworn in by the secretary. She'll swear all of you in at one time. Appreciate it. Thank you. And raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. First item on the new business agenda is 872 McNabb Hotel, PNC 23-124045. And the address, of course, is 872 McNabb Road. Mrs. Gritzer, good evening. You're presenting tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. Let's see, did I hit the right button? All right. Perfect. All right, good evening, Chair and board members. Lauren Gratzer, Development Services. Today we're going to discuss the 872 McNabb Hotel site plan. Here's the general location of the property. It's located on the south side of East McNabb Road at the intersection of Southeast 9th Avenue, just west of Federal Highway. The property is surrounded by residential to the north and the south, and FP&L utility sites to the east and commercial to the west. The applicant is requesting major site plan approval in order to construct a new 70-room condo hotel. The condo hotel units shall be owned by an individual, corporation, or any other legal entity that will be party to the condo association to be established. The building contains individual lodging units which will be occupied on a limited basis by the lodging unit owner. The building height is about 50 feet. This site plan was reviewed by the DRC in July, October, December 2024, and it was approved by the Architectural Appearance Committee on March 4th. 2025. The zoning district is B2, which is community business, and the land use is commercial. Should the board find that the application has provided competent substantial evidence to satisfy the review standards for major site plan approval, the Development Services Department recommends approval of the major site plan subject to the following comments and conditions. Number 1. Prior to the building permit approval, provide a declaration of condominium outlining how the operation or management of this building will occur. The following must be included in this document per the code. Lodging units shall not be occupied by their owners for more than 30 consecutive days and no more than a total of 180 days in any consecutive 12-month period. The restriction on owner occupation shall be included in the declaration of condominium. A unified management operation plan shall be required as an integral part of the condo hotel facility for rental activities, including a uniform key entry service, customary daily maid services, back of house services, and other hospitality services. The management operation plan should be included in the declaration of a condominium. Number 2, a utility easement form shall be submitted at time of the building permit for the construction of the drive aisle through the 24-foot utility easement in the middle of the property and the pavement along the north side. Number 3, prior to building permit approval, provide a valet parking agreement to be reviewed by staff for this property in accordance with the code. Number 4 is the standard conditions of approval required prior to building permit. First one is all signage shall be obtained their own individual building permits. The applicant shall provide evidence of compliance with the points used for sustainability narrative. Plans are subject to compliance with all applicable code requirements, including but not limited to the DRC comments. Landscape and irrigation plans must comply with all zoning code requirements as verified by the City Urban Forestry Division. And finally, a copy of the subted plan provided by the BSO must be submitted for building permit approval. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions on behalf of staff, and the applicant is here as well.
Okay, anybody? Mrs. Coleman, go ahead.
This may be a more appropriate question for the applicant, but is there a brand on this condo hotel?
It will be nationally branded.
It is a fairly boxy site plan with no balconies, it's just a box. And I could see no outside amenities. What amenities are included with this hotel?
So there are internal lobby areas for the people that are staying there. There's nothing external. It wasn't a requirement of the approval, and the site was just very tight for them to build anything outside the requirement for the parking.
But it's a hotel.
It's a condo hotel.
But you can't live there for more than,
Yeah, 30 days at a time.
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Before we go to the applicant. Seeing none. Were you, Bob, Robert? Go ahead, Robert. Mr. Hartzell.
Can you describe for me the difference between a regular hotel and a condo hotel?
Yeah, so it basically boils down to ownership. The condo hotel is owned with either individual or corporation owners in a condo association, and then the general hotel is just a state licensed building that's normally owned by one operator.
Okay.
Chair, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Powell, go
Actually, no,
ahead.
this would be for the applicant, so I'll hold
Okay.
the question. Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Anybody else? Seeing none? Okay. Applicant, presentation, what would you like to do? Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Board. I'm Drew Melville with Clark Hill Law Firm in Fort Lauderdale. Address 101 Northeast 3rd Avenue, Suite 1500 in Fort Lauderdale, 33301.
Would you like to use the PowerPoint?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So I'll go through the slides here. A lot of this was also covered in the staff report presentation. So again, hotel condominium, 70 units. If you haven't seen, if you think you haven't seen a hotel condominium, an example is the DoubleTree next to the Galleria Mall in Fort Lauderdale. That's a hotel condominium. I've stayed there as a guest. I don't own any unit. I've never owned a unit at a hotel condominium, but I've stayed there a lot as a guest. I've stayed at other ones. Maybe I didn't even know it was a hotel condominium. But you have a brand, and then you also have a declaration in addition to the required management agreement, which you would have anyway with any hotel property. And here's our site plan. You see there's a jump lobby, so that fills the requirement here for our site plan for that. And we can go into some of the dimensional requirements that we either meet or exceed. We had administrative adjustments for the rear yard setback, our stacking from 50 to 45 vehicles, and our landscape buffer, Raheel, you said from 10 to 9 feet on some of the borders there. Permitted right in the B2 zoning district. And then so definition of a hotel condo. Comprised of lodging units that are owned by an individual, corporation, other legal entities. So you record a declaration as with any other condo, and you convey the units individually with reference to the declaration in each conveyance deed. Condominium form of ownership. Again, you own the inside air of your condominium unit, just like any condominium. It contains lodging units, so when you're not staying at the hotel condo, you can put it back into the pool of available rooms, and hotel guests can stay in those. And each room is accessible by lockout key, and it considered a separate lodging unit. And again, we'll mention the owner occupation, no more than 30 consecutive days or no more than 100 total days in consecutive 12-month period. Lobby is required, and again, we have the jump lobby in this hotel. Management operation, which you would have in any kind of hotel, nationally branded flag required under the Pompano Code. Of course, we would incorporate that into the condo declaration. And conversion to a residential use is prohibited unless, compliance with the plan, but that wouldn't be the applicant's plan here. It's to have a condo hotel or hotel condo. Just highlighting some comprehensive plan points here. We've met the 12 sustainability points for our site plan, review for DRC. Also, I wanted to note that, there will be less car trips in the peak hours with the hotel use, but also this being, the area where it is, as you all know, there's a lot of, it'll draw on the North Fort Lauderdale, Cypress Creek business, corporate environment, people that want to come down to work or stay and for those uses, and it melds in with also with the nodes of commercial development here in Pompano. So presumably less, driving and greenhouse gas use. Policy 1.3.10, supporting hotels, motels, and tourist accommodations. This is also a business accommodation kind of hotel that this is in the designated land use designations here in B2. Supporting a mix of residential and commercial uses along McNabb on the major corridor. Reducing parking requirements. A lot of people staying here won't need parking spaces. Let's see. Redevelopment, sorry, I want to go back to that real quick. I want to point that out. Just the last comprehensive plan point is, redevelopment, urban infill, that's what this hotel is proposed to do. I think it's the highest and best use for this property, tax base wise, and as far as for the private development side as well. This is a prime urban infill site, and it's a great project for that kind of site. See here the landscape plan again. And the elevations we saw earlier in the staff presentation. Our color palettes. And then some more renderings. A view from McNabb. That's about it. Oh, sorry about that. Thank you all for your time, and we'll yield to questions. Thank you.
Mrs. Coleman, you,
I think,
Mr. Dally, go ahead.
talk to me a little bit about the landscaping plan. Your renderings show some pretty tall trees. Are those the height that you're putting in?
So here you'll see the view of it from the renderings, and then I'll pull up the landscape plan, and you see it looks like these different palms. There's some oaks in there. Rahil, if you have any comments on the landscape plan, let me know. Otherwise, I'll pull up the actual plan itself.
Rahil Sangvi, 6129 Northwest 124th Drive, Coral Springs, Florida 33076. So the plants we are putting in are anywhere from 10 to 12 feet in height.
Okay, well, your renderings are showing them slightly taller than that.
Oh.
The renderings might show them more, I
More
think,
like 20 feet.
yeah, when they come from the nursery, they might not be that big, you know?
Well,
Can you
Might have to get a new rendering
Do you have the
guy.
landscape plan?
yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Well, no, I see that, but that doesn't say anything about the heights. There's a landscape plan that has heights. I thought they were taller than that.
Yeah,
I thought they were taller than 10 to
Yeah.
12 feet.
10 to 12 is really not
I thought this had 18-foot oaks for one thing.
what we're asking people to put in these days.
Maybe I was thinking of the other property then.
The other property's got some issues too, but while he's looking that up, let me continue to ask. You are bordering residential on two sides,
across McNabb, it borders.
across
residential.
McNabb. Okay, so fencing is not,
No, yeah, those have been satisfied in DRC. As far as any buffers to the neighbors, those are in the site plan as well.
To the south is Fort Lauderdale. There's
And
a
to the south
wall.
is, yeah, it's
So
Fort Lauderdale.
okay.
And there's
Yeah.
more, and there's the power station to the east directly.
Right.
Not worried
And
about
there was,
buffering them.
I don't know what
Yeah,
it is
and that-
now. It used to be a kindergarten next door on the west.
On the left, I think there might still be an educational use
It
there.
is, okay.
There's, I believe, a buffer on that side.
When you say this is going to be nationally branded, in my, and I certainly know what a condo hotel is and have dealt with
Yes.
them in the past. I've never dealt with one this small. And so I'm curious to know, I'm not asking who you're going to brand with, but
Yeah.
what kinds of brands would be interested in branding a facility like this that's a little bit off the beaten path
Sure.
with no amenities?
Well, I think your typical traveling business hotel, and I'm not gonna, I can't speak for the applicant's, choice or maybe any potential deal with any brand.
And I'm not asking you.
Yeah, understood. But if you think of the type of hotel where you're gonna go in for, not, maybe for a better price point on, maybe you're gonna go on a cruise or something like that, or take a vacation, but the business traveler who doesn't really care about the pool amenity or, something like that, they're gonna stay at, say, the business version of the Hyatt or the business version of the Marriott, where you're going to spend maybe $100 or $200 a night, and you don't have a big pool and a splashy beachfront view, but you need to be in that place to do business. So it's kind of, I don't really want to mention, unless the applicant wants to, any, specific brand. But if you think of the typical type of hotel where you're going to be like, I want a nice, new, clean hotel. I don't need to pay a whole bunch of money for it, and I'm just going to this town to go to the, the corporate offices over on Cypress Creek or do some other kind of thing.
I just
That's
want to
kind
make
of-
sure on the east side of our city, or any place in our city, we're not putting in a Motel 6, okay?
Yeah, I don't think that's
That's
the
what
idea.
I'm trying to
Yeah, this
get at
isn't that
here.
kind of
I can
project.
vouch for that. It will not be a Motel 6.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, these are questions that, since we're the last arbiter of the site plan, I've got to ask, so,
Absolutely. It's going to be Hilton, Marriott, IHG comparable. If
that's all I needed to know.
no
The
Motel,
brand of one of the.
it will be one of those families.
Thank you.
And so you know me a little bit better. I'm gonna look at the type of business traveler I am, and I'll have to go to North Carolina sometimes or New Hampshire, wherever. I'll look at my Hilton points and my Marriott points, my ISG points, see how much I've got in one of those brands, because I know they'll have a business style hotel that'll satisfy my needs and not be gross. Basically, that's and it'd be a nice place to stay and have a business trip or even staying on a visit.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Mr. Daly, go ahead.
Being a condo hotel, there's options for ownership. I'm just curious, will there be units sold to individuals, or will it be a corporation that owns it all, or can you walk me through your thought process there?
Yeah, so essentially the goal would be to offer units up for sale. So that's what a condo unit would be.
Yeah,
But,
it would be just like you're saying, the developer would take title to all the units and record the declaration, and then now they've got the saleable units that would then be sold to third parties. So your individual unit owner in one of these type of projects, and then it's tied in too with the hotel's management agreement. So similar to the DoubleTree down in Fort Lauderdale, you've got people that own the units, and there's the restrictions on how long they can stay there at a time and how long during the year. They're going to do that. They're going to do their visits or for whatever purposes, and then they put their room back into the pool of lodging units. So then part of your management agreement with the flag is, I'll just say, because I don't know which one, but part of your management agreement is basically, and your franchise agreement with the flag it has that kind of regime in it. So you either stay in the condo unit, you own the condo unit, and then when you're not using it, you can put it back in the pool of hotel rooms. And you basically own a hotel room, same FF&E as you would.
The thought is, though, that the applicant is intending to sell units and not just retain them all himself.
I mean, we will retain some units.
Sure, some.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
there will be units for sale too, but the price point and everything will be on us.
Okay.
Yeah, the business model of the condo hotel is to sell the units to end users.
Okay.
And it's controlled through that management agreement as a hotel, basically, where people own the rooms.
Can I ask a different question?
Sure,
Chair?
go ahead.
Thank you.
You got the floor.
Thank you. We're dealing with traffic in this area. It's a mighty big concern on McNabb. As a father who drives his students to school there, or close to there as well, one of my daughters used to go there. It is abysmal in the mornings and in the afternoons. Adding traffic to this area during the peak hours of the morning, specifically where a business person might be going to a meeting or something like that. What are we thinking in terms of mitigating that traffic? Like, how do you guys logic that out?
We're glad you brought that up because
I'll answer.
First.
So the good thing is, yeah, we do know traffic is pretty bad on McNabb, but that's the good thing about a hotel. If it was a bank or a 7-Eleven, other uses by right, during peak hours, those trips would be a lot more than what a hotel is. Because a hotel, people check in around 7, 8 p.m., or maybe some check in a little bit earlier, and they leave at the checkout time, 10, 11. So at those times, the school hours are not, it's outside the school hours and it's outside the peak hours. So
Yeah, your typical
hotels do work inversely from peak hours. They're not banks that people need to leave at. There will be some people that leave at 8, 10, but majority people that are there, they'll leave 10, 11, sometimes 12, and they check in a little bit later as a traveler would. Some do check in around 4 or 5. Majority of it, they check in a little bit later after having dinner, whatever it is, if they're traveling. So it works inversely from the.
Yeah, and more people are able to check in earlier to these flag hotels. I've had a room early as 7 a.m. in the last year from a Marriott, property. But yeah, you see, Rahel knows more of the stats of owning a hotel and operating it. You'll see people are they're leaving the hotel around 11ish when they're going to get kicked out and they have to, check out time. And then they're coming to hotel either check-in time 3 or 4, or as Rahel says from research and knowing, how the hotels operate. Most people are checking in 7, after dinner, 8 p.m.
So that's like check-in and check-out day, but what about the days in between where people are coming and going? They're going to be coming and going during those peak hours.
That could, yeah. That
Or
could
they wake up late and don't go in peak hours, right? There's a chance.
yeah,
They wake up, sure. Sometimes they don't wake up, right? So it could be, that's like, I can't predict the future of the guest.
yeah, you'd say there's a diversity of use.
Leave at 6 a.m. Some people might not leave till noon.
Okay.
Yeah, there would probably be a diversity of users they're there for different purposes, business, travel, leisure, and they're there at different times of year. So, it's really unpredictable as to what the trips that might be generated in peak hours.
That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, Mr. Hartzell.
I think one of them more for staff, but if you can answer.
If you're on the mic.
You could try it, Drew, and see if you got it.
Yep.
Does it have any impact on the widening of McNabb or the construction they're doing on McNabb?
I think any construction on McNabb would more impact the construction on the building, and maybe staff would know more. And I don't know of any off-site mitigation or anything like that.
Hello. So the McNabb roadway plan is already set. It's in place. There's not a date certain right now for the construction of it, but it doesn't have any effect on the site plan. They're actually encouraged to build their portion of that plan for us.
Okay. And then the other question before you sit down is, Are each of these units a different folio number for tax purposes?
Yeah, they would be set up as different folio numbers, just like any condo. You record it, and then you go to the property appraiser and you say, you go to the mapping department, specifically, I've done this a bunch. And then you say, here's my declaration, it's recorded, here are my units, I need my parcel numbers, and then that carries on in all the conveyances going forward.
Okay. That's it. That's all I had.
Before you sit down, Lauren, can you put up the landscape plan? Do you have a way to do that? Because we were just looking at it on, and those trees are much bigger. That's why,
They range from 14 to 22 feet.
It was in the packet.
Yeah,
yeah, no, I know
I
that,
couldn't
but
find it before because it's not
when
labeled
I thought he
landscape
said
plan.
10 to 12, and I'm like, no, they're much, no, they're much bigger than that. That's why I would have picked that up.
And I apologize, I wasn't involved as much in
The oak trees, for instance, are like 18 feet. That's a large oak tree coming, it's a pretty good size oak tree coming in. It's 4 to 5 years older than a 12-foot oak tree, probably.
It's L02 on the list, under drawings. That's why, I couldn't find it, that's why I was asking.
You're not going to show us your password? I thought I was going to get in, sneak in. It's L2, is it L2 or LO2? Well, O2, LO2. There you go. And does that have oh, there it is on the bottom, yeah. Yeah, the chart's on the bottom. Yeah, the trees are on the right.
Yeah, that's.
There you go. So even like the buttonwoods and stuff are 16 feet. I mean, that's good size for a buttonwood coming in, for sure. The only ones that are smaller are the silvers, but they're understory trees on purpose, so they don't want them big. And ligustrums, even a 10-foot ligustrum is a good size ligustrum coming in. The live oaks are 18, and then you have the triple Veitchii Montgomery palms that are 22 plus. So I think it's going to come in and soften that building right up right away. I mean, it's not that tall of a building. So personally, I wouldn't be like that. That seems pretty comfortable to me.
That's what I wanted to just have assurance of.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm sorry, Mrs. King, I think you wanted to.
Yeah, I was asking about security. I saw in the septet plan about that there will be alarms. Perhaps that would be for some of the condo owners. Or are there any other security plans with I guess our cameras on there as well?
Yeah, there'll be security personnel on site and help to confirm, as well as typical alarm systems that are part of the hotel building. And again, it would operate as a hotel, so you you might not even know that there are condo units in there, but all of the units would have, the lock and alarm systems, and yeah, that would be part of it.
Animals allowed on the property?
That I would not know. That might depend on the management agreement. Rahul, do you have any idea about animals on the property? It would depend on which flag you went with.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah, if there are, I think there are some business type hotels that will allow pets on property under certain restrictions, and that would also be in our condo declaration if that were such a, if it were allowed under the.
That's why I was asking though.
Yeah. I think it would depend on the market of, what flag you're putting in there.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? You used a term for the lobby. I didn't.
Jump lobby, meaning it's on the second floor.
Oh, okay.
It's a, yeah.
Jump.
Yeah, yeah. The only one I can think of right now off the top of my head is the hotel I worked on in downtown Gainesville. There's a Hyatt Place with a jump lobby and right in downtown now. And that's the only one I can think of. There's one in Fort Lauderdale too.
Okay.
One of those Marriott branded ones on Federal has a jump lobby.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. Is there anybody in the audience want to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion. And with that, the chair will entertain a motion unless somebody has some other questions at this point.
Make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Hartzell.
In consideration of P and Z application number 23120000045, I move that the board finds that competent substantial evidence has been presented that satisfies the review criteria and approves the major site plan with conditions subject to the conditions of staff.
The 4 conditions of staff.
Yes.
Sir, are you okay with the 4 conditions of staff?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Hartzell. You're done?
I'm done with the
Okay.
motion.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions about the motion? Seeing none, Meredith, call the roll on item number 1, please.
Robert Hartzell,
Yes.
Gigi Dubeck,
Yes.
Rich Daly,
No.
Paul Fisher,
Yes.
Andra King,
Yes.
Carla Coleman,
Yes.
Fred Stacer.
Yes, thank you very much, and good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, item number 2 on our agenda is Power Petroleum HQ, Major Site Plan P&Z 22-124026, address and name. What is this? Everybody's got the same name and address, huh? 201 Southwest 12th Avenue, Inc. Diego, you're presenting, sir. Go ahead. Yeah, you need a USB?
No, I've got a USB. I can't
Can't
get
get
to
to it.
Can't get to it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Diego Guevara with the Development Services Department. The subject of discussion is the Power Petroleum major site plan.
Speak into the mic, please.
Sorry. Here you can see the location of the project and the aerial view. The parcel is located at the northeast corner intersection of Southwest 2nd Street and South Andrews Avenue. The applicant is requesting the major site plan approval to construct a building which include office space, an accessory storage or warehouse, and 28 parking spaces. It has it's a 3-story building which is about 43 feet high. The site plan and major building design were reviewed by the DRC on July 23, October, and November 2024, and post DRC on January 2025. The AAC reviewed the plans on March 8, 2025. The zone designation of the district is general industrial and the land use is industrial. Should the board find that the application has provided competent, substantial evidence to satisfy the review standards for major site plan approval, the Development Services Department recommends approval of the site plan. This concludes my presentation. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I missed it. Sorry. We recommend the approval with the following conditions. Provide evidence that the sustainable development point requirements has been met with the non-residential development required to achieve at least 12 points from the table 155.5802 sustainable development options and points. Second, the standard conditions of approval and or specification require prior building permit, zoning compliance permit issuance. A, provide evidence demonstrating that the plat has been approved and recorded at Broward County. B, plans are subject to compliance with all applicable code requirements, including but not limited to the DRC comments issued for this site plan. C, a copy of the cited plan approved by the Broward Sheriff Office must be submitted for zoning compliance permit approval, and D, substantial compliance with the plans as submitted with this application. Now, this concludes the presentation.
Okay.
And I am happy to answer any question that you may have on behalf of the staff.
Okay. So on our other backup, I only had one condition prior to tonight, so there was another condition added. You only had the standard conditions. We didn't have originally didn't have the sustainable development points. So that's been added since we got our backup? Okay, thank you. All right, sorry, does anybody have any questions of staff before we move to the applicant? Yes, Mr. Hartzell, go ahead.
Can you blow up the location map for me?
Location map.
It's just blurry on the pages that I have.
This is an old map. It is on South Andrews Avenue, Southwest 2nd Street. Probably on this map is not to the scale, the right scale to see the location, but probably the aerial where we show the property is a more accurate view of the location of the parcel.
Is this near the Cheney Brothers that we approved?
No, this is south. If you hold it still, please. Okay, and then if you go to that intersection north of it, you see the intersection on Atlantic Boulevard.
Yeah.
That's where the new Wawa is.
Okay.
This is where FDOT realigned that road, and they went right through. You notice there's property on both sides of this.
Right.
The parcel was square before it was taken by FDOT. Only because I worked as a consultant for them.
Is that where like Kennesaw Orange is right here, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, it's close to that. And south of that, you see another empty lot, and then south of that is where the propane tank place is, gas place, whatever. You locate it now?
Yeah, and now I know exactly where it is.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else before we go? Okay. Applicant, you want a presentation, please? Or if you want one, you're welcome to it.
All right, good evening. Danny Alonzo, OE Architecture with offices at 1235 Coral Way, Miami, Florida, 33145, on behalf of the applicant, Power Petroleum. Moment, let me just close this window. All right, thank you. Very pleased to present this new building in your city. It's a new 3-story office building located at the corner of Southwest 2nd and South Andrews Avenue. Here's another aerial that we just saw that's similar. It's a triangular property. We tried to use that to our advantage architecturally, but a little bit more on the property. It is zoned I-1 General Industrial. It is just under about 3/4 acres, and the proposed building will serve as the home for Power Petroleum and Expresso. These are gasoline distributors and gas station operators. The building will have about 9,500 square feet of offices and about 3,000 square foot of storage. Here's a building in the context. And here's a rendering of the building up close. The building was designed to address the corner on 2nd and Andrews and the business it houses. We developed the building around the tower feature that you see here, which, is reminiscent of a vintage gasoline dispenser, which speaks to the, inhabitants inside. This tower houses the main entry, the primary stairs, and the elevator of the building, so it's going to get good use. Here's some more views of the building. Here's the landscape plan, but we'll just go back to the renderings. It's been a long road. We've completed DRC. We have got unanimous approval from AAC, and we're very pleased to present this project to you and humbly hope for the same. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay. Before we move on to, you're okay with the 2 conditions of staff?
Yes, sir.
Client is. Okay. Go ahead. Anybody questions for the applicant? Mrs. Coleman, you go first.
Okay. I had a question on the landscaping plan, but then I figured it out, so.
Okay.
But I want to say, it's very interesting building design, and I get that this is good for that site. I did not see the gasoline pump. I thought it was a ship.
Well, the gasoline pumps are Art Deco, and that's reminiscent of the old ship liner. So yeah, it's all in the same vein. It's all the same
vein.
design, yeah.
But it is very interesting looking. I had a question on what kind of storage is going to be done on the site.
The storage is really just for their own internal operation. So remember, they have convenience stores. So it'll be just miscellaneous things to keep their operation running.
Okay, I know this isn't industrial, but we've been a little definite on what kind of storage in the past and what kind of screening it was going to need. So if you can walk me through what the requirements are there and what you might be doing, that would be helpful.
Well, the storage is fully housed. You see the round windows?
Huh?
That's an enclosed warehouse space. It's an actual storage.
Actual internal storage.
Internal storage.
I was concerned about external storage, and I wasn't seeing that, which is why I was
No,
trying
ma'am,
to
no
figure out where the
external
storage was. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Hartzell, go ahead.
What are you doing with the building on Atlantic?
What am I doing with?
You have a building on Atlantic Boulevard now, right?
A building on Atlantic?
Yeah.
I don't believe there's not a building. Oh, I would have to ask. I would have to ask the owner. I imagine rent it.
Sorry, you have to come to the mic if you're going to speak. Thank you. Sorry.
Just state your name, please.
Mahmoud Shihadi, 1150 East Atlantic Boulevard, Pompano Beach, Florida. Our current office on 1150, probably we lease it out because this is our second office. We used to be at 1308 East Atlantic. A year ago, we moved out to 1150, and hopefully within 2 years, we move into our new office.
Okay.
I'm glad to have you stay.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead. Is that it? Anybody else? Okay. We already agreed to the conditions. Anybody in the audience want to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing portion. And with that, Chair will entertain a motion on item number 2.
I'll make the motion.
Yes, Mr. Dally, go ahead.
In consideration of planning and zoning application number 2212000026, I move that the board finds competent and substantial evidence that has presented that satisfies the review criteria and approves the major site plan with
Two conditions.
subject to the 2 conditions provided by staff.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, Meredith, call the roll on item number 2, please.
Rich Daly,
Yes.
Paul Fisher,
Yes.
Gigi Dubek,
Yes.
Robert Hartzell,
Yes.
Tundra King,
Yes.
Carla Coleman,
Yes.
Fred Stacer.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with your project. Okay. Ne- You like that? You like that? That's a new mini storage look, you know that,
I
right?
know,
Oh.
absolutely. I hope all our storage comes in looking like that.
Oh, boy. Okay, next item on the agenda, item number 3, text amendment, modified AOD permitted uses. Mrs. Gratzer, you're back. Back again.
Yes, back again, Lauren Gratzer, Development Services. This item, we're going to be talking about the text amendment for the modified AOD permitted uses. This is within Chapter 155, Article 3, Part 7. So, the proposed text amendment. This is a city-initiated text amendment. It proposes to amend the modified use standards within the Atlantic Overlay District, or the AOD. The AOD is established and intended to serve as a center of activity for residents and visitors alike and be an attractive gateway to the city's beachfront areas. The purpose of this overlay is to stimulate economic revitalization, create a pedestrian-friendly environment, encourage beachfront beautification, and promote the mixed-use development. In order to achieve these goals, the AOD has a list of permitted uses that are permitted within the AOD regardless of the underlying zoning district. They are shown here in an abbreviated manner. Currently, the code allows for the 6 bolded uses to operate in the AOD regardless of what that underlying zoning district is. So aligned with these objectives of the AOD, the proposed text amendment adds museums and other indoor commercial or membership recreation / entertainment uses to the list of the permitted uses. The addition of these uses helps with the goal to continue this economic growth of the area and the establishment of the district as a destination, whether the uses are standalone or incorporated into a mixed-use project. So the text amendment review standards are 7 review standards shown here, and they are also detailed in the staff report, so I won't go ahead and read through them. The Development Services Department provides the following recommendation and alternative motions, which may be revised or modified to the board's discretion. Staff finds that the proposed text amendment is consistent with the 7 review standards for text amendment and recommends approval. The board may also choose to elect one of the alternative motions shown here. So this concludes my part of the presentation. There is an applicant in the audience, and if they're interested, they can introduce themselves or kind of give a little bit of a presentation of what could potentially be shown here, or be used here with this amendment.
Does anybody have any questions of staff at this point? Yes, Mrs. Coleman, go ahead.
Can you go back a slide? Another slide. What is a membership recreation entertainment use would be a membership club of some sort?
Yeah, so that is kind of just like a catch-all. It's the other category for our entertainment uses that was not like specifically called out in the list of use category.
Okay.
So
I have no problem with outdoor commercial. I have no problem with a museum. Membership recreation entertainment use gets a little mushy. May I ask a question of our attorney?
Sure.
Would this open us up to some uses that we don't generally allow in the city?
no, these are already established standard use in our code.
Okay, just put that on the record. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Hartzell, go ahead.
Sorry.
On these, I'd like to ask, are there specific projects, like to understand the why we're changing it.
Yeah, so this is the other indoor commercial use is an established use in Article 4. There are uses throughout the city that have fallen into this category. Currently, there is an applicant that is interested in potentially opening a museum, and so that a jellyfish like interactive entertainment use, right? So it could be a museum, it could also be like the indoor membership entertainment use. So that's why we wanted to have both of those uses added to the AOD, and it just overall, increases the ability to attract more people to that area.
Can you give me some examples of the other indoor commercial?
Like a club, any sort of club would be, not like a dance club, but
That's what I was thinking.
Mr. Williams.
Indoor commercial recreation can be anything from like laser tag to a bowling alley, although, it typically takes a large space, or indoor glow in the dark putt, anything like putt, like if it's indoors.
Okay,
like tennis facilities.
Indoor.
But yeah, indoors.
okay.
Anything that you would have to pay for a membership to enter to use that use.
Like a rock climbing gym or
Sure,
something like that?
yes, a climbing gym, yes, absolutely.
Indoor skydiving, they have
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
those.
those are cool. Yeah. Anything that's not already specifically defined in our Article 4 use standards, it would kind of just fall into this if it's indoor and meets that requirement.
That's all I got.
Okay, anybody else yet? Okay, so I understand we have an applicant here that is interested in a potential project, so if they would like to come up and speak, you're welcome to at this time. Yeah, that's what this is. Is it okay?
Is your name and address?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Irina Pilipkanich. The address 1919 Southeast 10th Avenue, Fort Lauderdale, 33316. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here to present our project. May I have the liquor? It's here. This, for example, this. Sorry. Thanks for the opportunity to present our project here. We think this will bring a truly unique concept to life in the city of Pompano Beach. Let me introduce a little bit of ourselves. Here in the audience, we have two main people who are in the industry for over 20 years, Yana and Alex Ivanovsky. They are, so I will click here. They're in the industry more than 20 years. They have built two public oceanariums in Ukraine, and also they have built the first jellyfish museum in Europe in 2018. Since that, this museum showed a great success. Exactly. Thank you so much. Success after opening, and it's still operating now and running despite of the situation in the country. So what else to say? Like to make long story short, all these rewards they've earned. So about the jellyfishes, I would tell more about the concept. The concept is permanent with a live jellyfish exhibition that will naturally evolve over the time. Since jellyfish live only for 2 months or maybe till 2 years, so the collection will be always continuously renewed, which will allow the people to see the new exhibition and yes, offer visitors fresh impressions. They also, to enhance this experience, we plan to combine artistic design with multimedia technologies and immersive 3D shows and optional experience. So also school field trips. Our project will host informative and educational tours for both school groups and adult visitors. Also, our project is mostly commercial, but sorry, with something wrong with the display. Oh, this was skipped. So our project is a commercial, but we truly understand the importance of social responsibilities. So we intend to offer free guided tours for children and with disabilities, also along with significant discounts for veterans, seniors, and families with multiple children, like bundle tickets for families. Additionally, we expect to create about 20 jobs, like places where can people work. We can do everything possible, of course, within our budget to integrate harmoniously into the spirit of your beautiful city with respect, dignity, and ecosystem environmental awareness. We hope that our jellyfish project will become a place that people of Pompano Beach can truly enjoy and be proud of. Thanks for the attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Seems pretty exciting stuff, but anyway, does anybody have any questions of them? Oh, Nguyen, do you want to speak? Yes, okay, so we'll have Mr. Tran speak at this time too.
Good evening, Board Chairman, Vice Chairman, and P&Z Board. Nguyen Tran, CRA Director. I'm not here representing the tenant. I'm here in support of the use and the text amendment. This did come to us, and the use seemed phenomenal. I mean, the location, if you know it, is the Wells Fargo building on Ocean. We've had uses in there before that had, I think the latest one was a daycare use, and I think that kind of fell through. But when I was included in this email and the use that came through, I said, this is perfect. This is a perfect location. It goes along with exactly what Pompano Beach is doing with Shipwreck Park, with Wahoo Bay, with the fishing village. It helps to offset some of the slower times in the summer with the restaurants and the retail shops in the fishing village. It really enhances where we're going. When we came across this, I didn't know anything about Jellyfish Museum, but Mr. Hernandez from New Urban Communities, who developed the fishing village, said he went to their exhibit, and they do exhibits. The one in Monterey Bay in California said it was phenomenal. So it's a family-run business. They're from Ukraine. They have two jellyfish museums there. They want to open up a permanent one, and they picked Pompano Beach as a permanent exhibit location. Unfortunately, why we're before you is because the use is not allowed at that zoning B2. It is a perfect use for that location. It's a perfect use in terms of where the city is going. We fully support this use, and I'm sorry for overstepping or taking over the language barrier, but they are very, very experienced in doing this. I know Jean McIntyre is in our office for economic development. She has introduced them to the Wahoo Bay Board. They are super excited about it. They put him in touch with FAU, and FAU wants to get involved and help them succeed as well. And also the University of Miami, who did the hives. So there's synergy there. We fully support this use and this location. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Tran. Does anybody have any?
I'm sorry, one more thing that I do like to add. CRA, you know, we do a lot of placemaking. Placemaking is very important. One of the reports, the latest one we had for placemaking, said that, you know, we are short in educational places and entertainment. What they kind of combined it was edutainment. We lack that, but it also helps set Pompano Beach apart from any other city. If we had a use like this, it would really help, you know, with the education with the kids, with the research with the universities. It would really further put us on the map. So, thank you.
Before you leave, this is the Wells Fargo that's like diagonally across the street from the hotel.
Correct.
The Hilton Hotel, the Beach Hilton Hotel, next to the parking garage. So, to give you an idea of the location that they're looking at. So,
Yes, they are currently negotiating the lease. They haven't signed the lease because the use isn't permitted. So that's why we're in this process now.
thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody? Yeah, Mr. Hartzell, go ahead.
Are they intending on building a new building or just putting it in that building?
They are. I asked them what they're going to renovate. Their renovation budget, they said, is around $4 million.
Good. Anybody else? Mr. Saunders, yes.
Only because this is a text amendment, and the question did come up. I know staff did reference some of the items that may be inclusive of the definition in our code. Meredith was so good to hint to me where it's found. In section 155.4217M2, it defines other indoor commercial recreation / entertainment uses include any private, indoor, entirely within an enclosed structure, use providing for sports and recreation activities that are operated or carried on primarily for financial gain, and that is not specifically listed in the principal use table. Examples include, but are not limited to, health and fitness centers, spas, gymnastic facilities, and dance halls. So if this board has any concerns, I'm pretty sure staff has no druthers, because it wouldn't impact a museum or a feature of that. If there were certain items that you wanted to ensure were not included in that definition, that might be something that could be addressed if there was some concern.
Mrs. Coleman, go ahead.
Since I raised the issue, what I was delicately trying to get to is I'm not interested in having a gentleman's club on the beach. This is so far from that. I just don't want us to be caught in that definition.
Correct, and that's a completely separate use that is defined in our code and would not be permitted.
Well, there's all kinds of, you know, hey, if we want to have a line dancing club that is by membership, I'm fine with that. But if it is a dance hall where gentlemen go in and pay for a dance with a lady, that's a different thing. So I just want to make sure we're not opening ourselves. We want this wonderful thing on the beach. We want to be able to change our code to allow this wonderful thing on the beach and other things like this. Just don't want to open the door the back way. That's why I'm looking to you for guidance.
Yeah, I think that, and again, I would have to look at staff for guidance as to what is currently listed as a principal use already in the table. That will serve as a standard. It was mentioned by Mr. Daly. He mentioned about cigar lounges as something that's very popular in certain communities as a form of recreation. And so there may be some tweaking possibly.
So that goes back to what's already existing uses in our code, and we do have sexually oriented businesses as a listed use, and so that would not be permitted here. And we do have cigar and lounge uses already defined in our code, so that would be a separate use in a different section of the code.
Thank you. I think it's better we get the discussion on the table here so that we don't inadvertently do something we not realize we're doing. With that, Mr. Chairman, if there's no more questions, I'll be glad to make the motion,
I just wanted to thank Attorney Saunders for his diligence on this matter.
Okay.
as always.
Okay, go ahead. Anything else?
In consideration of P and Z application number, this text amendment, I'm sorry, that's code amendment. Since I move that the board recommend approval of the text amendment to the city commission for their consideration.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions on the motion? All right, seeing none, Meredith, call the roll on item number 3, please.
Carla Coleman,
Yes.
Rich Daly,
Yes.
Gigi Dubeck,
Yes.
Paul Fisher,
Yes.
Robert Hartzell,
Yes.
Tundra King,
Yes.
Fred Stacer.
Yes, thank you very much.
I can't wait to go see this. This is going to be super cool.
This is really exciting stuff, folks.
Yeah, 100%.
It's pretty neat. So good luck with it, for sure.
I was at the Denver Museum about 3 months ago. They have a large jellyfish exhibit within the aquarium there.
Oh, really?
That was unbelievable, and the school kids were just going wild.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just unlike it. It's just very zen.
Okay. All right. So, item number 4, text amendment, synthetic turf. I know you guys just wanted me to have some fun with you, because looked like you guys had a lot of fun. I just watched that whole hour-long discussion last. Yeah, I realized you just felt bad for me. You wanted me to be hanging out with you, so.
Well, if you don't want to hear the whole thing again, you don't have to.
No, I thought it's interesting. Go ahead, Mr. Weems, you're up, sir.
Sure. Good evening. Max Weems, Principal Planner and Development Services. This item was tabled last month and requested to be brought back for some specific purposes. I realize that it is not the same board that I presented to last month, so I'm happy to do the same presentation, an expedited version, or skip right to the requested follow-up items. So I'll defer to the chair.
Okay.
On that.
I remember the whole thing was an hour long. How long was the presentation portion?
I did it in about 35 minutes, but now it would also include the recommended changes. If you want, I can really fly through it, or I can go right to the requested changes.
Okay. We have, I think we need probably a small version.
Yeah, I wasn't here either, Max.
I
but
wasn't
I'll
either, neither was Mrs. King. So I think we probably need to, if you can, whatever, whittle it down possibly.
Yeah, I think
great.
if you didn't watch the presentation, I think it's really good because it gives the pros and cons of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a serious thing, even though
No,
it's artificial turf, but it's like there's some serious consequences either way.
Well, I think it gives more context to the discussion afterwards, because I think there will be some more discussion. So I think we need a little bit we need at least if you can do a briefer version, that would be great. If not, just go through the whole thing.
Sure. So this is being brought to you as a city-initiated text amendment. It was requested by the commission at the March 12th City Commission meeting. So as you may know, our code currently regulates artificial turf through the treatments of pervious and impervious areas on a property. And the main issue with that is that our code defines pervious as living material. So it automatically excludes artificial turf, and then turf needs to be treated as a pervious material, kind of like a patio or an extension off of a house. I've given a sample property as an explanation. I just chose one in the RS2 district where it requires a front yard setback of 25 feet, a pervious area of the property of 30%, and then the front yard has a 50% pervious area requirement in addition to the overall 30% area requirement. So I already described that pervious is living material. It can include some non-living material, but that's intended to be like mulch in a flower bed, not so much synthetic turf. So, okay, if I have like an 8,000 square foot lot, 2,400 square feet of that is going to have to be pervious area. And in the front yard, if I have a 50-foot wide lot and 25 feet of depth, I need to have 50% of that as pervious, so that's about 1,000 square feet in the front yard. So that might look like this. That's the lot limits and a foundation. Here we have how it might be developed with the grass being the pervious area, a pool in the back, the driveway, maybe there's a shed or a gazebo. And then the front yard highlighted there, that I'm saying that the regulation requires 50% of this area to be pervious. Now with our current regulations, what somebody might be able to do to install artificial turf on their property is add what's highlighted in this lighter green color. So, you know, they're allowed to have 70% of their property as impervious, so the balance of what remains after I've built my house, my pool, my driveway, my shed, my gazebo, is what's available to be filled in with artificial turf. So it's certainly not intended in our code today to be treated in lieu of your lawn. It's more like in lieu of a patio. And in the front yard there is the second graphic. 50% of that front yard is allowed to be impervious. So that's what's shown there is the balance of the front yard after you have the driveway and the path to the front door. However, you know, that kind of limitation is not really what we're seeing people who install artificial turf really want. It's okay. We're having some code violations, artificial turf on their property than our codes currently allow. It might look something like these graphics. So rationale for synthetic turf, it's natural, it's better for the environment, it doesn't have as much heat off-put from as the artificial turf might have. It's better for the groundwater recharge, it's better for stormwater, drainage. While synthetic turfs may be permeable and they may be pervious, it's never going to be as permeable or pervious as a natural lawn. And we also have a variety of regulations throughout our code that would continue to apply to synthetic turf. So it's important that we create regulation within our zoning code to reference other points throughout our ordinances for implementation when should we get a building permit for synthetic turf. So I looked around to several municipalities to see how they regulated artificial turf, and I found a lot of commonalities. I think cities are prone to copy-paste from each other and tweak a little bit here and there. So I went with cities that are clearly restrictive on regulation through to cities that are more generous in terms of their regulation, and found that there's always a definition that provides that it's something that emulates a natural lawn. Codes may define it as pervious, they may define it as impervious, or pervious, impervious may not even be a factor of their codes in the first place. There's always design standards for the aesthetic qualities, and installation standards to ensure that it's a good quality product. The maintenance standards are mostly there for the purpose of code enforcement. Should it be in disrepair, what are our mechanisms for requiring that it's brought back into a more original condition? And then there's certain prohibitions that are always provided, such as in the swales, abutting waterways, separation from property lines or from natural areas, like natural lawns or flower beds or tree lines, that outdoor carpeting isn't a appropriate material in lieu of synthetic turf, and that rubber may not be used as an infill material, and it's prohibited in the drip line of any tree. The relevant regulation within our code that we're proposing to tie into this regulation is our drainage requirements that we apply to single-family and duplex development. Those properties, new construction, are now required to provide a drainage plan that demonstrates they're able to maintain the first 1 inch or the initial flush of rainfall on their property. So should a property, what we're proposing is that should a property come in with an application to expand their synthetic turf area beyond the impervious areas where it's provided for today, that they come into compliance with our drainage requirements and demonstrate that with the addition of synthetic turf on their property, they're still able to maintain that 1 inch of rainfall or the initial flush of rainfall on their properties. And that's how we're looking at allowing synthetic turf in lieu of a natural lawn, where we would otherwise rely on the permeability to create the drainage to maintain our stormwater management systems. So the drafted regulation largely follows the themes that were identified in the regulations from the comparable municipalities. We've created a definition that defines the artificial turf as a synthetic fiber, largely emulating a natural, healthy lawn. We've created standards around the design standards and installation, the design that it has a minimum height of 1.5 inches and a minimum face weight of 56 ounces. The height is, I think we can understand that. We want the grass to not be like a carpet. We want it to be something that appears like a grown sod. The face weight is an industry term to define the density of those fibers within a square inch. And then the material, polyethylene, that is the most common and newest of common synthetic turf materials. It's also the most durable and frequently touted as the most green. It's still a plastic fiber, it's still barely recyclable, but of the materials available, it was the one that is the most recommendable, and that the materials are made in the USA. And that whatever it is, it will have a minimum permeability of 30 inches per hour per square yard, which is kind of an industry standard of those products that are presented as permeable artificial turf materials. The installation got to be done by a contractor or landscape architect over a subgrade that is compacted and porous and designed to provide positive drainage, anchored, no visible seams, and the infill being of a silica or sand variety or other as approved by the city engineer. We tend to shy away from larger, like or even fine gravel as an infill material, some hard materials, something that might end up in our drainage systems and also in the roadway. This is the same rationale as why these aren't permitted materials for driveways. They may end up in the roadway and damaging the asphalt, or they may end up in the drainage system, just complicating that filtration process. Additional standards. Any property proposing to do this would have to come into full compliance with the landscape code. That the areas that are where it's installed is in conjunction with living materials, hedges, trees. Trees, if they're not meeting their minimum tree requirements on the property, but certainly at a minimum hedges and flower beds, and that there's a separation between those areas. No irrigation to blow onto the synthetic turf, and that it's anchored behind the seawall as drafted. Maintenance, again, just so that we can follow up with code enforcement as needed, and that it's prohibited in the public rights of way, and that all uses will require a building permit. So after our presentation last month, there were 5 items that were brought up. The first being that there should be, or that there could be, a setback of the turf from the property lines. In the staff report, you'll see all of the cities that I've cited with the text examples of those municipalities. In the presentation, I've pulled what I would recommend from those examples. So for a setback, we were talking really about a barrier between a neighbor's property and the artificial turf, or the swale area and the artificial turf on private property. And so I've addressed those in 2 ways. One would be with either a setback or the installation of a fence or a hedge. With other standards, like for a shed that's proximate to a property line or mechanical equipment, we require that be screened either with a fence or a hedge. So this use of fence or hedge interchangeably is consistent with other sections of our code. So it's either 36 inches from the property line or a consistent fence or hedge exists on that property line for a setback. That's what's proposed here. To address the hard barrier or edging, really is that first standard appropriate at the property line, or do we need to consider more of a separation of some kind of concrete mow strip or some more durable material between the synthetic turf and the neighbor's property line. I kind of think that the setback satisfies that concern, but we would still require that hard barrier between the drip line of a tree or on-property natural landscaping and the artificial turf on a subject property. The third item is the setback of the synthetic turf from the natural waterways or canals. The examples that I pulled for the other references, none of those municipalities were comparable, that had a setback from a waterway or canal, were comparable to Pompano's waterway systems. They were more inland, and the setbacks that they required were 50 feet. So that just was not realistic and comparable here. Any of the comparable municipalities did not address this issue. They had a very similar pin down at the rear of the seawall, but otherwise there was no setback required. If that isn't adequate, we could go back to the 36 inches from the rear property line or hedge or fence, but typically people don't propose a hedge or fence along a waterway or canal. Requirements for living material on a property, I think that the as drafted already addresses this by requiring areas of living plant material incorporated with those areas where there's synthetic turf installed, and that all of the properties proposing the synthetic turf beyond the impervious areas come into full compliance with the landscape plan. Additionally, we had a comment for requirements for a certain area around the base of a tree, and the way that it was drafted and remains to be drafted is that there would be no synthetic turf within the drip line of any required tree on property. Just to demonstrate that drip line, I've inserted this graphic here. This isn't proposed to be installed in the code, but the drip line is generally consistent with the critical root zone of a tree. Of course, that may vary if it's a taller tree with a narrower canopy. The critical root zone will be wider than that drip line, but all of this would be subject to the approval of the urban forester. That actually concludes my follow-up on the remarks provided from the P&Z last month. I'm available for questions or happy to go back over any of the relevant regulation or drafted regulation that I may have breezed through in this truncated version.
That was way faster than 40 minutes. That was impressive. Very impressed.
So sorry if I glossed over.
No, I don't think you did. I thought it was great. Having watched the last wrestling match that you guys had last month on it, but anyway, go ahead. Anybody have any questions?
So I missed last month, so I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mrs. King, please.
Bringing up something that was brought up last month. So what is the difference between this and what we already have, the standards that we already have at our current parks that have artificial turf?
So our parks, that was a brief topic of discussion last month.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. It's totally
No, it's
fine.
important. It's important.
It's being brought back as an item, so we're able to discuss whatever is on the table. The parks do have an artificial turf system for the fields, and those are generally consistent with what we're describing for our new regulation. However, we have what's called a public purpose adjustment for public property, where we're able to create administrative variances for projects like that. That system would not otherwise comply with our code today.
You have more?
I'm done, yeah. I think
So I want to add on to that for just a second. One of the things that would concern me, and I understand we run into these potential conflicts, but I don't think anybody who's going to put this in their yard is going to have 5 football games a day or something on a field, and it's not practical from our standpoint to try to maintain that as live. So I I think, I can get past that myself. I don't know if you can, but I can get past that mentally because I'm like, yes, okay, we're doing it ourselves, but that's for a different reason, because you don't go and run, I guess your kids can run up and down on your grass all day and wear it out. But I see like football fields or soccer fields where they're really going to get a lot of abuse. I think it's just not practical from the city standpoint to do that.
And if somebody did have a private property where there was some unique circumstances where there was this repeated abuse of the lawn, where the only viable alternative was a synthetic turf, the process for a variance does exist for that purpose.
Yeah, and I think it would be pretty practical. There would be a very good argument, especially if they had a similar whatever. They held whatever. They were the neighborhood football field or whatever.
I think that,
and I think we would sympathize with, not us, but the ZBA would sympathize with something like that. I think that's
I don't think people
reasonable.
having dead grass is typically a result of the type of excessive play we would have on a play field.
Yeah, I agreed. I'm sorry. Mrs. Coleman, did you?
I wanted to let people who weren't here
Oh,
last
yeah,
week
weren't here.
talk first.
Keep talking. Okay.
Yeah.
You're good? Okay. So I had a handful of things that I wanted to make sure that I understood. So I think it was defined that the city engineer's not letting anything in the right of way. Is that, so our front setback, we're not gonna have a problem where swales end up in people's driveways. They're not gonna have this stuff in it unless.
It doesn't
God
really
forbid
make a whole lot of sense. The way that we use our swale system in Pompano is a part of our natural drainage system.
Sure.
And so
Absolutely.
they're intended to capture the runoff from the roadway, although sometimes it also includes private property. But if you installed a synthetic turf system in a culverted swale and it has infill, the minute it is overrun with water, all of that infill is washed out.
Sure.
And so that's just not, it's not a compatible purpose with that installation.
No, I agree. I think that was really my point is that I think it's very wise to not do that. We need these swales to actually work in residential areas. I'm weird, but I'm going to put a drain field itself in there just because I usually overkill stuff. But that's whatever. That's another problem. So drainage, I can see drainage being a problem, especially, I think Mrs. Coleman had brought up an issue, if I'm not mistaken, about the, on the waterfront properties. And we do have connecting points between, typically, in these single-family homes, you have connecting points where you have patios that tie into, because obviously you walk down to your dock, assuming you have a dock. And a lot of times, a lot of us have liked to have larger ones, not small ones. So I'm not sure how that part would actually work, but this new drainage requirement that we're going to have in new single-family home development, is that what I'm understanding? That's going to be a requirement as part of.
So the drainage is already a requirement for new single-family home applications.
It already is, okay. So the point being is that now we are, in fact, taking that into account. We're not allowing runoff off of people's properties, so that wouldn't necessarily change. Well, specifically it wouldn't change, and they're gonna have to draw, I assume, you're saying they're gonna draw a plan to have holding their own retention, however it is that they wanna maneuver this amount of turf that they're allowed to maneuver around.
Yeah, so
It's still gonna stay on the property.
when we created the
Which is the
drainage
requirement.
requirement, it was not at all in the context of synthetic turf. It's, properties are being required to be elevated. Their finished floor is, at least.
Sure.
And typically, or often, a homeowner elects to do that through the use of fill. And then when you have a filled property that maybe doesn't have retaining walls abutting a not filled property, it turns into like a pyramid. And
Right.
then all of the rain on my property flows to my neighbor's property. So we wanted to make this requirement that if you're introducing fill to your property, you're going to have a stormwater management plan on file. Now, And our drainage permits for, like we require drainage permits for multifamily and commercial properties. We do not for single family or duplex. And so this is the way that we're ensuring that these single family and duplex properties are providing the on-site drainage that we intended them to provide. And now if we're taking away pervious area or a more pervious area, we have to compensate for that somewhere, and the way that we're doing that is by ensuring that they're at least maintaining that first inch of rainfall on their property when they install artificial turf. Most of the applications, they're on established properties, and those established properties don't have this drainage plan on file, and they were never required to have a drainage permit with the county. So this way, we at least have some kind of comfort with what we're approving.
Okay, yeah. Well, no, the county only requires it for
Multifamily and commercial.
yeah, okay, the bigger projects. Okay, and the last thing that, and you and I had this discussion offline. Has there been any feedback from the urban forester yet about, I realize we talked about the drip line situation, and yes, it's nice, and now this year your tree is 8 feet wide, and 20 years from now it's going to be 35 feet wide. Do you have a discussion at all yet with the urban forester about that? Or?
You're saying, should we apply our standard?
Well, I'm not, yeah, what's the thought process on that? Because a 35-foot wide oak tree has a huge root.
Correct, yep. So that would be a consideration. If this plan is being reviewed at the time that that tree is installed, that root zone is not the critical root zone of the species. It would be the critical root zone of this baby tree, and that's not what we're looking to permit. So all of that would be a consideration of the review of this particular application at the time.
Oh, so they would actually then, the intention, if I'm understanding what you said, is the intention is the urban foresters in that review process, oh yeah, okay, so you got one of these fast-growing trees yeah, it's 6 feet today, but you're gonna have to plan for 12 or 15 or whatever it is that they say, because within 10 years that you're gonna be there. Is that
correct? The urban forester will be.
Yeah, that was the one of the things I was worried about, and I appreciate you having that discussion.
I had the same concern for this one. How do we deal with the drip line from a tree they had to put in today, and it's 10 years, it's gonna need 6 times that area?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
thank you.
Problem. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
One other
Go
question.
ahead.
Still, if you're gonna do artificial turf you're on a canal in your entire backyard, water's gonna run into the canal. Water is gonna run into the canal. And I don't know if requiring a 36-inch strip of whatever is gonna make up for it running in the canal, because I don't know that much about drainage standards. But should we require it, or should we let that go?
You want to answer that, or you want me to answer it? Or?
I just wanted to provide some context.
Yeah, go ahead. You want to put it in
the stormwater, it is not legal for a property to discharge any of that initial flush off property, including towards a canal. So with a stormwater management plan on file, that first inch is guaranteed. But I mean, as you know, our rainfall patterns are increasing in trend in terms of the volume of water that we're receiving in any particular event. So I don't know if that provided comfort or
I think that where we probably from a practical standpoint where we might go on that is that the suggestion could be that the drainage plan will, when you have waterfront property plans, that this will be one of the review standards that you look at. And now, where you have transitional hardscape, where you're walking down to, I don't know, unless you're going uphill, the water's going to go off, potentially. Yeah. Some of that's going to go off site. But I understand your point, and we can, I think, if they're doing a drainage plan, they can, request, oh, well, I can't get the slopes right or whatever, then we could probably just suggest, hey, put a berm that's 6 inches high or something as part of your 1 inch of water holding or whatever it is.
Well,
And it doesn't have to be that, I'm just saying, as a discussion, they have a lot of methodology that they can use.
We wouldn't, I mean,
I'm not going to tell them how to
shy
do
away
it, but
from
my
it.
point is,
Yeah.
I really believe there are methods that they can do and retain that water within reason. You're not going to retain it on the walkways and stuff, but I agree with what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing.
May I just maybe suggest some comfort language that says, when the drainage plan is done, if it's a waterway property, special care be taken not to enable greater runoff into the canal. I mean, that's pretty,
Okay.
I
I think that's probably generic enough, and
Yeah.
people can figure out how to do it. I mean,
I,
drainage is not that complicated, really.
I'm curious to review the Chapter 152 floodplain regulations and see how much of this is already considered. I would assume that we are not encouraging runoff into our waterways and canals already, but that might be too obvious.
I wonder if that ended up in any of the CRS stuff.
I'll take a look, but
Yeah.
your concern is noted.
but just some comfort language along those lines, and I'll try to quit solving it and let the experts solve it.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Fisher, go ahead.
Well, I was here our last presentation, and I do personally agree with Max, what you did on, I believe, for the slide for recommendations for the 36 inches and the fence line. I think it was number 1. That I personally agree with that one. I don't think we go any further with the hard edge. I think the 36 inches and the fence line kind of solve what, at least in my opinion, solved our worries when we were here for the first presentation. So just wanted to echo that. That's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Hartzell, can your lawn guy live with that? No, you were the one that brought this up. You can tell I watched the video, right?
Yeah.
You said your lawn guy could kill anything.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. But can he,
Tear it
is
up.
36 inches enough? Can he stay far away?
Yeah.
At 36. Okay.
Fine.
Okay, well, if
just
his
had-
lawn guy can do it, then I think anybody can probably. So.
Stop watching the videos. What is it? Do you know what the absorption rate on that first, on grass, does grass absorb more than an inch of the first rain, or?
So, no, I don't have a comparison between our minimum standard of 30, 30 inches per hour per square yard is the requirement for the synthetic material. I don't know how that compares to a natural lawn. I think that was the question.
Yeah, I think I would be more comfortable if it was similar. If it's not similar and we're actually creating, it is a non-pervious surface, but if we're not,
Right. If the water on a natural surface, if we're allowing for that 1 inch, clears sooner than that 1 inch on a synthetic turf, then anything beyond that 1 inch is more likely to flow over. Am I understanding?
yeah. And my other issue, and I brought it up last time, and I don't know what we can do to overcome it, is, we're due for a hurricane. We're due for a big one. And what happens to these yards during a hurricane? They get up, float away. I mean, they are nailed down, but so is your roof, Are we going to have, after a hurricane, a bunch of piles of non-biodegradable turf sitting in front of our houses and putting them into the landfill? I mean, and the issues with microplastics, and we're putting plastic on our yards instead of grass. I mean, for me, from an environmental perspective, I just have a hard time swallowing it unless we come up with a way to, all right, if you really want synthetic grass, you have to have a certain amount of bond that if that needs to be disposed of, then that bond needs to be there in place to dispose of it. I don't know if you can do that, but I mean, it just really scares me that we're going to end up getting hit by a storm and this stuff's going to float away or get, destroyed by a tree falling down and perforating it and tearing it up, and we're going to have piles of turf sitting around. I don't know how to fix that.
So I just have a quick thought on that. I just don't think that everyone's going to immediately rush to install synthetic turf. To me, it's like an eyesore when I'm thinking about a property. I would much rather have a lawn. So in this instance, I think we're thinking about a small minority versus the large majority of lawns. And I'm happy to allow and allot the person's free will to do what they want with their property, as long as they are within certain guidelines of drainage and things like that. But I don't think we're going to see massive amounts of synthetic turf piled up after a hurricane.
It's a good point. I mean, I think with the restrictions, I think
we'll probably keep it, we will be keeping it down. I mean, at a 30,000-foot level, I'm completely against it. But I realize that this is from a practical standpoint, I think we probably are going to need to just allow it. I mean, I think from a heat standpoint, I mean, there's all kinds of things to me that just say, why are we doing that? But you know what? I don't want to be like, it seems like they're trying to find a way to solve some problems, so I'm going to give in on it a little bit.
Mr.
That's just
Chairman,
me,
I'm with both of you here, because I think it's awful. But I think that staff has done a tremendous job.
No, they've done great.
In doing research on it, being reasonable about both the regulations and the protections. And I think we've gone about as far as we can go. We have made it would be an expensive process for someone to do this. Because you can't, as I think somebody said last time, go to Walmart and get yourself a roll of it and put it down in your backyard. At least not legally. And so this gives code enforcement some regulations to go by. If this doesn't work out, I'm worried about little kids in the heat of this in the summer. It's going to be awful. And if the parents are responsible, if they've got it, they'll take it up because the kids won't play on it. So if the city commission is asking for our best guidance in this, I think that this is
probably it.
You're right.
I think you might be right on. We've taken it as far as we can to say, hey, and Max has you did a fantastic job. Obviously. I can't imagine you working on this for this long.
Mr.
No, just by one point is let the commission create their policy. If they like it, they like it. I think we've brought it to a point to let the commission, they write policy, they do that. If they like it, we gave them our best shot.
Mr. Fisher, did you?
Two quick things. One with the floating away. This stuff is extensively heavy with the anchoring and the fill that on top of it, and the piece of turf itself. It's extremely heavy. So I don't see it floating away. I see it getting damaged with maybe a root system like you're talking about. My other question was with the height, and I got this actually brought up to me in a conversation about this the other day. A lot of homes that like synthetic turf, like putting greens per se in portions of it. If we're doing a minimum height restriction of length, putting green, that's not going to be puttable per se as a golfer advocate. It's not going to be able to do putts on a, 1.5 inch minimum.
You have to get a special mower.
Yeah, you have the special motor. So they pretty much add fill a little bit to make it shorter. That's what they ultimately do. But I don't know if that's going to affect anybody that wants to put a turf in, that would like to have a putting green per se. I'm just bringing that to people's attention if anybody has a question on that.
Sure. So that wouldn't be permitted by this, the reduced pile height. It's not really something I was contemplating, and I also imagine that if somebody's installing an synthetic turf putting green, it's also not the permeable backing, the same infill material. I think it would be a different type of product. I don't know, but since I didn't discover it in the research that I did, I have a feeling it's a different animal. And it could be permitted as in the same way that a patio would be permitted. So, as long as it's not my whole backyard, it would be permitted in that way. But in lieu of my yard, it would have to be this minimum pile height.
Of course, I'm not talking about the whole yard being a putting green. I'm starting a small section, which I think we might have talked about this outside this conversation, Max, was it kind of is an example of being like a patio or something like that, where it could be in the original code aspect. So thank you. Just my only point.
Okay. Anybody else? No?
I just want to echo Robert, Mr. Hartzell. You're 100% right. This is a commission-based item. They will make the policy on this. We're just trying to set the guidance, I think, in my head.
I'm sure Max would like to get this off his plate.
Well, I think there may be more to it because just listening to the original discussion from the commission, the concerns weren't strictly related to those properties that were in violation. It was also related to those properties where their grass wouldn't grow. And I have a feeling that that's more often than not because they're parking on their lawn, which is not something that you're going to be able to do with this material. And a much cheaper version of it, like a carpet that you roll out and stake, would survive not forever. Eventually that would degrade and fall apart. It also wouldn't look as nice. I don't think we are addressing that concern with this. I do want to take a moment just to describe that there are other types of living material that is a pervious ground cover that is more drought tolerant, hardy, shade tolerant, whatever, resilient than the common St. Augustine grass that we see in our lawns, whatever it is. Is it St. Augustine?
Yes.
I think this is the most common. So I just want to state that if people's concern is, this isn't the solution I was looking for. I think there are code permitted solutions that exist. We just maybe need to create a brochure about what those options might be.
Oh, boy. That makes me feel like we're going to see this again in a different
I said
light.
brochure. I didn't say text.
I can't wait for it to come back. Just very excited. Yes, go ahead.
I watched the video and I had to search for it for like a half hour to find the sweet spot. But it was somebody came up and gave a presentation, a landscaper.
Oh, okay.
Came up and gave a presentation, and a couple of and this is 2 years ago, right? So a couple of the commissioners said, "Oh yeah, that we should probably entertain that, look into it." And one of the commissioners raised the issues that Max brought up. That like, hey, these are really hot. They're not natural, so it was kind of bouncing back and forth, and they were kind of looking at guidance, like, why aren't we looking at this? I think we're giving them that information here. They can choose, where they want to go with it.
Yeah. Lucky you, Max. Yes, go ahead.
Want a motion, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I move that the board recommends approval of the text amendment to the city commission for their consideration with any additions. There were no additions tonight, right?
No, I think we gave you all. You
Ms.
incorporated the
Mrs.
things.
Coleman had that one addition for the language, correct?
Right, I had the one, but I think what we need to do is, with the 5 additions that we considered tonight, that he brought back to us, these are not included in the original one.
Correct.
So the runoff one is not included?
So what I heard so far was that number 1 was a recommendation, number 2 was no longer necessary.
That's true.
Number 3, we want heightened review of the runoff into canals or waterways. That's something I can manage at your direction.
Yeah, internally.
Number 4 and number 5 are not necessary.
Okay, so with the 2 changes?
Two and a half. Two.
Two.
2 conditions.
Second.
Amendments.
Amendments, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions on the motion? If not, Meredith, call the roll on item number 4, please.
Rich Daly,
Yes.
Tundra King,
Yes.
Gigi Dubeck,
Yes.
Paul Fisher,
Yes.
Robert Hartzell,
Yes.
Carla Coleman,
Yes.
Fred Stacer.
Yes, only if you promise to not bring it back. I'm just kidding. I just kidding.
You only had to do it for one meeting.
I'll go away again if you want me to. This one's not in my wheelhouse. Okay. With that, we have, what do we have? Audience to be heard? No audience to be heard tonight. Reports from staff. You guys have anything for us tonight? No?
No reports. Thank you for letting me sit in.
Thank you. Good job. How do we trade her for Bobby? I mean, we get Bob, no? Oh, no. Okay. Never mind. He's my buddy. I can say that. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. His dad will shoot me if I do that. Just kidding. Just kidding. Mr. Saunders, did you have anything, or you want to wait for? Okay. All right. So here we are. Board member discussion. Mr. Daly, you have anything for us tonight?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Fisher?
Nothing tonight.
Mrs. Coleman?
Glad to see you back, Mr. Chair.
Mrs. King?
I just wanted to say that I did attend all 4 or 5.
5, I think.
Running together. All 5 meetings, and it was a lot of information, so I hope people will get an opportunity to ask their questions. I know there are subsequent meetings that are coming down the road, and that people will get involved and make their requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hartzell?
Just as usual, I mean, staff did a bang-up job. You guys really hit it out of the park. And our substitute did great, too.
Thank you.
You know, I came in thinking one thing, you know, like, there's just no way I'm going for the turf. Like, just no way. But, you know, I'm not, I got there. So,
okay.
And the staff helps, and you guys put together great packages. Everything's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for
And thank you,
answering all
Fred,
those
for coming back. Carla did a bang-up job.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm surprised you wanted me back. Mrs. Stobeck?
I'm good. I don't have anything more to add. Thank you.
Okay. I just have, I think I have one quick item and one not so quick. One thing we ran across tonight on the condo hotel there was a discussion, a brief discussion about amenities. Do we have in the hotels, are hotels themselves required to have amenities?
No, in most uses, we don't require any additional amenities. We do have amenity standards should they be proposed.
Okay.
But in applications where there's more of an ask, like if it's a planned development or something like this, frequently the discussion ranges from community benefits to resident amenities, and that's when those items are required.
Okay.
I do want to add that I apologize. I did say there were no amenities because I couldn't think of what they were on the top of my head. But then after I realized they did have a gym, they do have like a kitchen for all the people that are staying there. So there are minor amenities. They just weren't very clear on the exterior. A minor gym. I understand it's not anything fancy, but it's something. But like Max is saying, we don't have any requirements, so there's not much for staff to say, hey, you have to do this, because they'll say, no, we don't.
Mr. Chair, on that application, I have never, in all my years of dealing with developments and condo hotels, seen a condo hotel that was not a resort. I understand business hotels.
Yeah.
But a condo business hotel? That's why I was asking so many questions. It's not a business model that springs to mind.
I agree, and I think it's hard for our position to say to an applicant, you have to do this, because there's no teeth in the code for us to say that, because they'll fight with us and say, show me in the code where it says that.
Right.
So We can only ask, and when they say no, then it's like,
If the business doesn't work, it won't work. I mean, but.
right.
Yeah. Well, I think this is somewhat unique because we don't have that much B2 property, and if it was B3, there would have been a regular hotel.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Want just a regular hotel at first, and they got shot down a couple times.
Yes.
Yeah, on the
Well,
ZBA.
that's my point. And if we weren't in a B2 property, that's not where this would have probably gone. The other thing I was going to say is that in the little bit of traveling that I do for work and stuff, staying at whatever, like a Courtyard or something like that, they have pretty small gyms. I mean, so if you have a gym that has enough room for 3 or 4 pieces of equipment, that's about all these transitional hotels even have. So, I mean, yeah, admittedly, they probably have a swimming pool, but you know,
It did say Candlewood Suites in the backup material. I don't know if anybody saw that.
What?
Candlewood Suites.
Oh, okay.
Was one of the
I think it was the signage said that.
yeah, the signage.
The signage did.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it in the pros
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Sure. But I just wanted to bring that up. I didn't know that. I didn't want to necessarily have a much longer discussion about this, other than to just make sure that there wasn't a differentiation between condos and condo hotels and hotels in terms of the requirements for amenities. So, and there's not. So.
No difference, just ownership.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. The other thing that I'd like to bring up tonight, it's my understanding that it's very likely that we'll have nothing on a regular agenda next month. And first of all, I'd like to thank Mrs. King for going to all 5 of them. You're my hero for listening to that. But that's great, and I think it's incredibly important. And I think it's so important that this agency, which is the planning agency for this city, needs to, and I've discussed this with staff, needs to have our own presentation and thought process on this. And I would, it's my intention to have the agenda next month to have a similar workshop to what the city is doing. Now, you're incredibly well versed in it by now compared to everybody else. But one of the things that I would like to say is that, first of all, it's a planning issue, obviously, of great importance. I mean, figuring out where you're downtown and what it is that it's going to encompass and how that fits into all these various things. I mean, you know, I think about all the planning we put into the beach area and that 2 square blocks. We're talking about a massive thing compared to that. And this is generational. We will, you know, there will not, well, at my age, I will not see anything this important in this city again. So I think it's incredibly important that we get in and dig in our, and you'll be more well-versed than some of the others. I know Mr. Fisher's been to them, Mrs. Coleman. I don't know who else has had a chance to go to them, but it's incredibly important. And I think this board should be making, you know, it's our responsibility to make that and make a recommendation and try to figure out all the various things. It's very different than it was 2 years ago. I know you remember this, but the city hall was at the other end of the property. It was over by 95. Now it's over on. So these things will be dynamic. They'll change. We did on the beach. I was having a discussion with somebody the other day, and the hotel on the beach, the Hilton Hotel, originally was designed. Does anybody know? It was designed to be 1-story restaurants. Okay, and we ended up with a 5-story hotel. And they say, well, how'd you end up with a 5-story hotel? Because the garage was 5 stories, and everybody said, you're not making it taller than that. So we had a 5-story hotel. It seems to have been a success, right? So that changed from the original plan. The original plan for the beach itself had no parking. And we have 100 parking spaces, and God knows we need every parking space we can get on that barrier island now. So things will change. They've already started to change, and there's an incredibly important input is probably the single most important thing, because you know, no matter what people's opinions are, they need to be expressed and get it out there. And so I think it's going to be incumbent on this board to do our share in terms of that. And if we do not, right now, it doesn't look like there's anything else, so we will probably just do it and start it at 6 o'clock, like a normal meeting, okay? What do you think? They've been running about 45 minutes or something on the presentation side, and we'll take as long as we need to vet everything out. Whatever people think, when we're, you know, whatever we need to talk about, because that's how you get it. That's how you know, make it successful. I'm telling you, you wouldn't believe the discussions we had in the 9 years before the first person told us we were doing a good job on the beach. It was 9 years. I am not kidding you. Barry Doxwell, who was right in the middle and was the impetus for that, along with your dad and stuff, we just, for 9 years, people told us we were doing a horrible job and we were ruining their lives. And I dare you to find me somebody who thinks that they want that leaky roofed library back and the mold-ridden fire station that we had and that sea of asphalt, you know. But it's tough. This is going to be tough, too. I mean, these big developments, you know, but they're really, really fundamentally important to this city. So anyway, so that's the plan. So that might be the only thing we have on it, and please, everybody, I mean, I know you will because you've been so interested already, but dig in. This is really going to be important when we get the backup and stuff on it. And so that's what we're going to do next month. Okay? Anybody else think that's it? Are we done? Oh, I have to play this song. Okay, there we go. Ta-da!